having talked about the types of sword that we have, let us proceed to the properties of sword. Properties of sword. Now, the first properties or the first rule that we're going to talk about is the product rule. You understand? You see, when I talk about properties, I'm talking about the rules. You understand? There are rules that guide sword, and understanding the rules is crucial to understanding the topic. Okay? So, there are rules. The first rule is the product rule. And the product rule states that if you have two swords that are multiplying each other, listen, I'm talking about the rules of sword now, okay? If you understand this rule, half of the problem is already solved. Do you understand? Okay? So, according to the product rule, if you have a sword that is multiplying each other, let's say we have root of A times B, it can be written as root of A multiplied by root of B. Do you understand? This one is called the product rule, okay? The product rule. Do you understand? The product rule, okay? Now, another important properties or rule that we're going to talk about is the quotient rule. I get what I'm trying to say. Don't forget, quotient means division, okay? So when we have two swords that are dividing each other, maybe root of A over B, it can be expressed as root of A divided by root of B. Do you understand? Okay? This one is called quotient rule. Quotient rule. Okay? Now, let's proceed to the next. Another important rule that we're going to talk about is the power rule. Okay? That is, when we have a sword that is raised to a power, let's say we have the square root of A raised to the power of 2. This is also the same thing as A. Okay? Now, let's go. Let me prove it for you. Let's say we have the square root of A raised to the power of 2. Don't forget that square root of A can be written as what? A raised to the power of what? 1 over 2. Is that not it? So, now, if the square root of A is A raised to the power of 1 over 2, the square of the square root of A can be written as what? A raised to the power of 1 over 2 raised to the power of 2, right? Now, according to the law of indices, if you have A raised to the power of B raised to the power of C, this can be written as what? A raised to the power of BC. Do you understand? That means that I can rewrite this as A raised to the power of 1 over 2 multiplied by 2, which is what? A raised to the power of 2 over 2. A raised to the power of 2 over 2 is what? A. Are you getting it? So, that means that if you square a sword, you're going to have A. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? The square root of A is equals to, the square of the square root of A will give us A. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Okay? That is the quotient rule. Do you understand? Okay? Now, these are the basic rules that you need to understand as far as sword is concerned. Now, another important thing that I'm going to talk about in sword is how do we simplify sword? This is where we're going to lay our conclusion before we delve into work example, okay? If you are asked to simplify sword, how are you going to simplify it? Let me give you the steps. The first step is that find a perfect square factors, okay? Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Find a perfect square factor. Having done that, rewrite the sword. Don't worry, listen, just pay attention, okay? By the time I solve one or more example, you're going to learn how to use the rule. You understand? The first step is that you have to find factors. I get what I'm trying to say. When you find the factor, then you rewrite the sword with respect to the factor. Having done that, you find the factor that is the perfect squared. Having done that, you rewrite the sword with respect to the factor. Then you simplify. That's the theory rule. Okay? Let's look at example. Let's look at work example. Let's say, just pay attention, okay? Let's say you are asked to simplify this sword. Root of 72. Okay? Listen. Let's say we are asked to simplify this sword. I can rewrite 72 as what? 36 times 2, right? Yes. So, the factor here is now 36 times 2, right? 36 times 2 will give me what? 72. So, I'm going to rewrite this 72, right? So, I'm going to have the square root of 36 times 2, okay? You know, I told you that the first step is that find a perfect square. That is a perfect square that if you take the product and a particular number, you're going to have the number that you are asked to find the sword. The number that you are asked to compute the square root. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? So, we have this in sword form. The first step is that you have to find a perfect square. Now, I look for a perfect square. The perfect square is what? 16. A factor of 72 that has a perfect square, that is 16, right? Now, if I multiply 16 by a certain number, I must get 72. So I think, what can I multiply by 16? I mean, what can I multiply by 36? Sorry, it's 36. I'm sorry, it's 36 now. What can I multiply by 36 that will give me 72? So it occurs to me that if I multiply 36 by 2, I'm going to have 72. And 36 is a perfect square. So that means I can write this out as square root of 36 times 2, right? Because 36 times 2 will give me 72. Now, come back to the rules, you understand? That's why I said you must understand the properties. Come back to these properties. According to these properties, square root of a times b will give me what? Square root of a times square root of b. Do you understand? So I'm going to have here square root of a, square root of 36 times square root of 2. Do you understand? Okay, square root of 36 is what? 6, right? So I'm going to have 6 multiplied by square root of 2, which will give me what? 6 root 2. Do you understand? Okay, let us look at some more example. Let's look at some more example. Let's say you are asked to simplify square root of 12. Okay, simplify square root of 12. Now, I just taught you the steps in simplifying solid. The first step is that you have to find the factor that is the perfect square of the number that you are asked to simplify. Now, what is the highest factor of 12? 6 is the factor, but it's not the perfect square. 4 is the factor, and 4 is the perfect square. So, what number can I multiply by 4 to give me 12? That is what? 4 times 3. Do you understand? So, I can write 12 as what? Square root of 4 times 3. And according to the product rule of SOLD, product properties of SOLD say that square root of a times b will give me square root of a times square root of b. So I'm going to have square root of 4 multiplied by square root of 3. So square root of 4 is what? 2 times root of 3. That is what? 2 root 3. Now let me ask you a simple question. What types of SOLD can we call this one? Yes, it is a mixed SOLD because it has an irrational coefficient, which is 2. Okay, so let's proceed to another question. Let's say you are asked to simplify square root of 48. Okay, you can try that. Simplify square root of 48. Simplify square root of 48. How will you go about this? Okay, now I told you the first step is that you have to find a factor that is a perfect square. Okay, what is that factor? Well, 16 is a perfect square, right? Yes. 16 is a perfect square. So, what can I multiply by 16 to give me 48? That is 3. You understand? Because 16 times 3 will give me 48. So, let's go. That means I can rewrite this as what? Square root of 48 times 3. Okay? So, this is an equals to sign. Oh, sorry. Equals to sign. So, now square root of 48 times 3 will give me... Oh, sorry. Square root of 16 times 3. Square root of 16 times 3. So I'm going to have square root of 16 multiplied by square root of 3. Square root of 16 is 4 multiplied by square root of 3. So 4 root 3 will give me that's the answer. Okay, 4 root 3 is the simplified version of square root of 48. Do you understand? Okay, now let me give you another one. I want to simplify square root of 100. Simplify square root of 100. Simplify square root of 200. Okay? You can drop your answer in the comment section. Now, if you want to simplify square root of 200, you can rewrite 200 as what? 100 is a perfect square. So, what number can I multiply by 100 to give me 200? That is 2, right? So, that means I'm going to have square root of 100 multiplied by 2. And according to the product properties of SOLD, square root of a times b will give me what? Square root of a multiplied by square root of b. So I'm going to rewrite this as square root of 100 multiplied by square root of 2. Square root of 100 is what? That is 10. 10 multiplied by square root of 2. So I'm going to have 10 root 2. Do you understand? Okay, this process that I showed you is the process of simplifying SOLD. That is, you can express SOLD in the simplest form. Do you understand? Now let us proceed.